Gordy, we have a quote here from your site, and it says, "The first thing you should know is BLUECAT is very hard to win. Our readers are incredibly tough on our submissions because I've handpicked them and my standards are very high. We work very hard, and writers who work as hard as we do stand a chance in the competition." So can you talk about that process?
Well, that's all true. I mean, it's very difficult to win a competition. I don't think I've ever won a competition. It's very difficult, obviously. Most of the writers that place in our competition, they work very hard on their scripts, you can tell. I mean, that's one of the things I recognize about submissions that do place. It's like they've obviously spent a lot of time rewriting, developing, and polishing and working on their scripts and making them function. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. In terms of the readers, yeah, we are very, very careful. We have every reader that I hire every reader, and I think we've built our reputation over the years of being very strict. We're actually just now going through the list again, making sure reviewing the work from that last year, weeding out anybody that's not up to our standards of what we want, the very best coverage, the very best feedback, because we send feedback to everybody, so they read everything, and we want to make sure that it's up to that standard. So I'm very tough on our readers, on who we hire. I think we pay our readers competitively with the very top competitions easily. I think we're right up there. So we do attract, I think, the best in terms of a reader that's available for a script competition. So I pick the readers, and after 20 years of judging BLUECAT, my standards have, obviously elevated, and my own ability to assess something gets a little bit stricter and more difficult. So yeah, so you're going up against very, very tough readers that are very sophisticated, have a good voice themselves, know what they're talking about, and are aligned with my sense of analysis and judgment. And then your script is going to come to me, and I'm going to start looking at your writing from that vantage point. So yeah, I don't think it's like, it is a very well-curated process. It's not, we don't take the scripts and send them off to a development company and who's promised to read them, and then they send back some of the ones that they liked, but we have no evidence as if they've read them. We don't do anything like this. There's a lot of extra work for BLUECAT, but our entrants and our writers appreciate the transparent character of BLUECAT, that your script has been read completely all the way through. The reader is someone who's giving you a fair shake, and that's something that doesn't necessarily always happen with with all submissions. Even in the top competitions, without naming any names, I'm fine with whatever anybody else is doing. But for me, as a writer, I want to know if somebody read my script. And that's where this came from with BLUECAT. We started it 20 years ago, giving feedback to everybody, because I wanted, when people enter BLUECAT, they know that their script has been read. So it's been adjudicated. And do we still have problems with readers, or somebody complains or whatever? Very, very rare now. And it's usually when somebody just doesn't like the fact that they don't like the feedback. And it's not really because of some issue. And if sometimes there's a rare time where there is an issue with the reader, maybe the reader has gotten sloppy, it's gotten maybe too negative, maybe a little bit too discouraging, which isn't really our style. We shoot straight, but we don't sugarcoat, and we don't get all mean, because that is just, nobody responds to that. So yeah, so that's a good, I think that's a fair assessment of like why BLUECAT is hard to win at. But I think any competition that receives several thousand submissions is going to be difficult to come out on top. So
several thousand submissions, and this is per year, or do you have it several times a year?
No, we're annual, so we are always in the fall, and so it ranges over the years. We went through a little bit of a transition about 2 years ago, But yeah, we get a few thousand features. It's changed. We've gone over 4,000 in a couple years. So it's like, but now we accept pilots, and we accept half-hour pilots, hour pilots, and shorts. So our feature number has changed because now somebody has a pilot, they're like, well, I really want to send my pilot in this year. They're not forced to send in their feature. So our feature number changes as we get other categories, so as the other categories grow.
And so how long is the feedback? Like a few paragraphs?
About 600 words.
Oh, okay.
500, 600 words. So it's not short. I mean, it's a pretty decent length for feedback that is included in the entry fee. So it's not an add-on. You know, it's part of the entry fee, and yeah. So it's not. Yeah, it's definitely the BLUECAT tradition of doing that. I think that it's just part of the entry fee, and I think it's substantial feedback, and people like the feedback. That's why we're still around, because we're not affiliated with a large, like the Motion Picture Academy. Nichols is affiliated with a big, we're not affiliated with a standalone film festival or, like Sundance or whatever. I mean, we're just BLUECAT. And the reason that we sort of stand with those top people, I think, is our track record, and but primarily because people get feedback. People get feedback, and so developing writers can get feedback. And a lot of people have never received feedback at all, and so they really like entering BLUECAT for that feature.
And what's the time frame for the feedback?
Well, it comes back pretty quickly. I mean, for example, we have an early deadline that allows people to enter by the 30th of this month. I mean, this is going to probably be an old video soon, but it's like we usually have an early deadline where people can enter, and then they get their feedback back within like 2 or 3 weeks, and then they're able to revise their script and enter it by the final deadline. So a lot of people like to do that. They take in the feedback and then they enter it again, and then they can pick to have a new reader or the same reader. And that's what we've been doing that for several years too. So people like the sort of developmental process of entering BLUECAT, and but that's grown over many years of us trying different things and trying to give people notes and when to give, how many times can somebody resubmit, and things like that. We've had to change and correct, but the feedback comes pretty fast relatively to. Within the course deadline, even towards the end, if you enter by the final deadline, it usually comes back within a month, 6 weeks tops, yeah, depending on how many submissions we receive.
What would you say is the percentage of writers that will actually take those notes to heart and resubmit?
I think, well, the resubmissions, it's pretty good. I mean, it's definitely a good chunk of people. Maybe I should know that, but it's like 30%. I mean, it's not half. But a lot of people, because a lot of people do well, they might get notes that they're like, oh, they really liked it. I'm gonna see how my script does in the competition. Or people are like, I don't want to do this. Or they don't have the money to resubmit, unfortunately, or whatever. There's a lot of reasons why they might not. But I think our community tends to say, yes, we like the resubmission process. It's not something people are like, no, don't do this. We don't like this. They actually want it. So we've toyed with not having it, and people really like it. So we continue to do it.